Hey, hi. How's it going? I'm gonna take a small, like, quick, like, pee break here. First I'm going to let you know, yeah, we're gonna continue the, intense music the entire time, but I'm gonna try and, make it manageable while we listen to congressional testimony of an alarming nature. Um, so, for those who don't know, for those who are unaware, I was a mechanic in the Air Force, and what I specifically did was I did repair and reclamation, which means that I was one of the people that was supposed to be sent out if and when a plane were to crash. I'd be one of the team picking through the parts to try and figure out what fucking happened. Okay? So that is my like requisite experience in all this. I was in the military for 5 years. I did that for basically the entire time because I tested straight out of tech school into repair and reclamation as my first and only job in the military. So I am by no means a expert on the 737 Max, nor am I an expert on the 777 or the 787. I'm not a expert on Boeing processes. I didn't work for Boeing, none of that. But I was also working with fighter aircraft. And fighter aircraft were made by McDonnell Douglas, which was bought out by Boeing before I joined. So, with requisite experience out in the world, um yeah, I'm going to be watching this again from my point of view once for you guys because some of the things that I heard, yeah, I knew about. Some of the things, for a little bit, you guys remember whenever the F-15 in 2010 ish, 2009 ish fell in half because of some bolts? Yeah, I kind of worked side by side with Boeing people at that time. I saw their standards of care and maintenance. I saw the way that they did things, and I also heard stories since I worked in the EMS flight. Um, Stories from other people who would receive the aircraft back from scheduled Boeing inspections and how they would be afterward. So let's uh, let's dive into this whenever I can. But first, I need a little pee break. I'll leave the music on. My apologies that it's going to be intense, but this is not any happy matter. And if I'm going to be here, then we need to set the appropriate atmosphere. I hope everyone's okay with that. I'll turn the music up a little bit while I'm away, and I'll see you guys in just a minute. All right. Now, they're about to swear in the experts. I believe we'll get into them as they're introduced, I promise. Their testimony is alarming, and we need to go over this. I'll be really honest. I don't want to do this. I feel the need to do this. I would much rather be playing FromSoft Friday right now. But this is important, and let's go.
Nice. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So this will be the engineer. I believe this guy is an investigator, and these two are also expert witnesses.
You may
one
begin.
Probably a maintenance person, and the other, I believe, another engineer.
Chairman Blumenthal, or Ranking Member Johnson, and the honorable members of this subcommittee. Thank you for convening this hearing. My name is Sam Solopur, and I'm a quality engineer at the Boeing. I have over 40 years of experience as an engineer. I'm not here today because I want to be here. I'm here today because I felt that I must come forward because I do not want to see another 787. I do not want to see 787 or 777 crash. I have serious concerns about the safety of the 787 and 777 aircraft, and I'm willing to take on professional risk to talk about them. First, little bit about me. I came to the United States in 1973 and got a mechanical engineering degree from University of Missouri, where Senator Hawley is from. After that, I worked for companies that they were involved in the space shuttle. I had a friend, engineer, that worked on the space shuttle. He was always complaining about the quality of the O-rings that we had in the space shuttle Sararaka boosters. He was scared that they might fail. He raised his concerns, and he was hurt.
So right now, I believe he's talking about the Challenger disaster, where, yeah, his friend must have come forward with the concern on the wear and tear of the O-rings because they didn't have the correct ones. I think they needed a certain size, and they had slightly thinner ones, and that caused, whenever that shifted, something, and it let in, which is bad, and it caused a catastrophic explosion.
Heard, and he wasn't hurt, and 7 brave astronauts, including the teacher in space, died when the Challenger O-rings ultimately failed, just as he predicted. At the moment, I know that
massive tragedy.
If I were ever in a similar situation, I would have to come up and speak up. I have analyzed Boeing's own data to conclude that the company is taking manufacturing shortcuts on the 787 program that may significantly reduce the airplane safety and the life cycle. Since 2013, there have been serious issues on the 787 program, not properly closing thousands of gaps in its assembly of the fuselage.
That right there is one of the most damning things I could have ever fucking heard from him. Honestly, that right there is what convinced me that I needed to actually do something about this. That line. Because that's unacceptable.
On major joints. Boeing's standard says that these gaps must be closed, usually by a small shim or filler called a shim when they exceed 5 thousandths of an inch. This seems very small. Boeing's PR team like to call it the width of a human hair.
Okay, yes. The width of a human hair in aerodynamics is incredibly thick, actually. You need those tolerances to be within, like, nothing. Because when you're going either sub or supersonic, the shear force on everything and the way that the motors go, because everything is a turbo motor, by the way, now, just so you know. We have turbofan and turboprop motors. Or turbofan. We have turbofan, turboprop, and turbojet motors. Sorry. Because turboprops are like jet motors, but they've got the prop up front, but it's just working on like jet mechanics to keep everything. It's not important. Turbofan are the one that we're talking about right now. Turbofan engines are on all of our commercial jetliners. So the ones that we're talking about right now are the ones that are on the 737 Max, as well as the 777 and the 787, I believe, because they're bigger than the rest. So though they will create more vibration because it's still an internal combustion engine. It's just that the internal combustion engine part is smaller, but it's a jet engine, so it's gonna like vibrate more. You know, that's why we need to watch around like what turbulence is, that and like the aerofoil, and we're not getting into like heavy engineering topics here because while I understand the forces at work, I can't tell you the mathematics. That's what this guy's for. This guy designs this shit. I'm just the guy who puts it together, so I need to have the basics grasped, right? But no, so what that is whenever that's like too far apart, it'll vibrate together and cause the part that's vibrating more to do that, or you cause tension because you can get two things to meet at the same point, but then you can cause a shear bolt thing to happen, and that'll like just break, or like you can have the bolt just separate like this. There's a lot of different ways that this could break, including like the arm itself breaking, or this is bad. This is incredibly bad, and if they're doing this on all of their airframes, which I suspect they're doing, this is bad.
When you are operating at 35,000 feet, details are that the size of a human hair can be a matter of life and death. In a rush to address its bottlenecks in production, Boeing hit problems pushing pieces together with excessive force to make them appear that the gaps don't exist.
That is also, believe it or not, something I've seen. Sometimes by mechanics, just in general, because sometimes mechanics are lazy, and if you can just kind of get it together, it works out, like 90% of the time. But a lot of the time, you're not like hitting things with a hammer to get it to line up straight because something's been mismade. Normally, if that stuff's happening, we send that shit back, get a new part. Right? That's what you do whenever you're out on the fucking line. You get new shit from Boeing. Boeing just doesn't do that for itself? Sounds about right. I mean, their tool quality control alone is fucking ridiculous. We'll get to that.
Even though they exist, the gap didn't actually go away, and this may result in premature fatigue failure. Effectively, they are putting out defective airplanes. I repeatedly produced reports for my supervisors and Boeing management demonstrating that the gaps in the 787 not being properly measured or shimmed in two major joints of the 787. Evaluating from the 29 inspected airplane data, I found gaps exceeding the specification that were not properly addressed 98.7% of the time.
Okay, so this guy's an engineer working on the plane telling them that they're putting it together wrong and they're not addressing things. Remember what I said about tool control? Yeah, tools are getting left in the plane. Because they make enough that they can just buy new tools. Sometimes they just won't miss an extra hammer. What's that? I dropped my socket in there? Oh well, time to buy a new one anyway. Seriously. And because they're private, not military, they're held to a lesser standard than we are. So with the military hardware we'd get back, we'd have to do a full inspection of the plane, and sometimes we'd find tools. I've heard stories of food being found in planes, but not sure about any of that. The tools I'm sure of. It's insane what's been going on for so very long. My apologies. I've got to do a couple things real quick. We'll go back to full screen. But yeah, no, it's insane, man. It's so weird how we've just kind of turned a blind eye to this person who's providing the world's air travel and our military hardware. I don't know if it's going to come up, but I think they're going to talk about it here. If nothing else, then I might talk about it later.
I want to repeat that.
There's
98.7%
national
of the time,
espionage about
the
it as
gaps
well.
that they were supposed to be shimmed, they were not shimmed. The other issue that I found, when you have these
unavailable.
gaps and you drill through them, you get some debris in the stack-ups. This is known to be a problem,
You've
not
got to
a good
file
thing
them out.
for the airplanes by Boeing. But Boeing data also, from the inspection of the data, shows that the debris ended up in the gaps 80% of the time.
No, you if you're drilling new holes, you need to file that out, make sure that it's like good and done, and then you clear out the debris and make sure that there's nothing in the gap. If there's supposed to not even be a gap, because there's not even supposed to be a gap, because there's supposed to be a shim in there that's supposed to make it work, or the parts are supposed to be machined to such a point that they just fit right. But then again, you can't really fit everything right. It's like building a ship, really. You can't get everything to fit right. It's not a Lego thing. It's kind of just a manufacturing of scale thing. But at the same time, they need to be better about this because it's the world's air travel.
Again, you have debris in the gaps 80% of the time.
Also, another big problem with debris and gaps like that, if it's around flight control cables, because there's still a lot of cables involved in flight controls, if it's around any sort of flight control cables, that is a problem. Like, immediately. Because that can cause undue wear and tear on them, or any bushings or little wheels that may be around to be there. It's all just really bad. You don't want debris inside of an aircraft.
I want to make clear that I have raised these issues over 3 years. I was ignored. I was told not to create delays. I was told, frankly, to shut up. At one point, Boeing management got sick of me and raising these issues and moved me out of the 787 program into this 777 program.
That also sounds entirely too true to the way that we handle things in the corporate world or the military world in certain cases. Most of the time, especially if in the military is what I'm talking about now, most of the time we'll crack down on it because the person who fucked up is generally like it's lower on the scale, an enlisted member. And if you're an enlisted member, fine, fuck off, you're gone. If you're an officer, well, they've got more money than you. You might have a chance. But no, he is in such a place that he didn't get fired, he got transferred. So, like, kudos to this guy for just being a fucking boss.
On the 777 program, I found problems. Again, I found that Boeing started a new process to build the airplane without taking into the consideration of the design of the airplane and how the airplane was designed. As a result, I witnessed severe misalignment when the planes were assembled. Boeing manufacturing used unmeasured and unlimited amount of force to correct the misalignment. And this also weakens the airplane in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Any sort of like stress like that will weaken an aircraft, especially if you're using like any sort of force to put anything in wrong. That's the bot. No, you don't do that.
I literally saw people jumping on the pieces of the airplane to get them to align. I call it the Tarzan effect. Among
I Okay. So, there are times whenever you're trying to get parts out of an aircraft where it's acceptable, downright fucking neighborly of you to jump on that component. Sometimes that's the right thing to do to get it off. Because sometimes that shit just weighs too much. Someone's just got to get up there and do something, and it's just, yeah. Like, we had to use a specifically designed, giant fucking hammer, no shit, to remove a part from the F-15. It's fucking great, but at the same time, like, sometimes you do just have to, like, use force to get shit out. Whenever you're putting things in, you're generally trying to be a little bit more gentle so that you don't fuck something else up. So if somebody's trying to jump up and down on something on the body of an aircraft to get it on... No, look, I'll be the first to admit that I'll jump into a fucking green waste can or a trash can if that shit's just about, like, full and jump that shit down, right? But this is different. This is so much fucking different. Oh my god.
other improper methods. Again, I raised concerns internally. I was sidelined. I was told to shut up. I received physical threats. My boss said I would have killed someone who said what you said in a meeting. And then this is not a safety
After
culture
the other
when you
one
get
ended up dead, by the way.
bringing issues of safety concerns. I hope that your work on this issue signals
Well, I don't know
to
if he was
Boeing
told that
they
afterward,
must
but
make real changes and get back to building the airplane safely. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Salapur. Mr. Pearson.
I'm gonna turn the video down a bit more.
Chair Blumenthal, Ranking Member Johnson,
Too low.
distinguished members of the committee, good morning.
No,
Thank you for
he
inviting
just
me
talks
today.
loud.
My name is Ed Pearson. My father was
Sorry.
a Washington, D.C. homicide detective, and my mom was a nurse. I learned the importance of telling the truth from them, my teachers and coaches, and this was reinforced at the Naval Academy. The military, like all high-hazard jobs, demands that people tell the truth and admit their mistakes, because if you don't, people will die. Since the first Boeing MAX airplane crash,
Just as an example, whatever you do, don't look up the Damascus Titan missile explosion. Especially, don't do it at citation needed. Not at all. Don't do that. That is not a thing I want you to do.
I've spent every day thinking about the victims, their families, and the millions of people that fly Boeing airplanes. I've done everything I can to continue telling the world the MAX airplane is still unsafe and to alert authorities to Boeing's dangerous manufacturing. I'm here today to share 4 key messages. First, the manufacturing conditions that led to the 2 737 MAX disasters also led to the Alaskan blowout accident, and these conditions continue.
Oh, wow.
In 2019, I testified as a Boeing whistleblower. I had previously warned the 737 general manager before the MAX crash to shut down the factory. I also warned Boeing's general counsels, the CEO, and the board of directors before the second crash to shut it down. They ignored my warnings. During my 2019 testimony, I described the chaotic manufacturing, the dysfunctional safety culture, and the horrible job government authorities were doing investigating the 2 crashes.
Whenever I
The
say,
world is
oh
shocked
wow,
to learn
it's
about
because
Boeing's
I was
current
half
production
listening,
quality
but I knew I
issues.
was listening.
I'm not surprised because nothing changed after the 2 crashes.
No.
There was no accountability.
No.
Not a single person from Boeing went to jail.
Sounds about
Hundreds
right.
of people died. Not a single person from Boeing went to jail. Hundreds of people died, and there's been
Little
no
glitch
justice.
in the matrix. It's fine.
Unless action is taken and leaders are held accountable, every person stepping aboard a Boeing airplane is at risk. Government authorities ignored Boeing's manufacturing problems until the Alaska accident. Passengers shouldn't have to rely on whistleblowers to provide the truth.
No, they
They
shouldn't.
should be able to get on airplanes and not have to worry about what model it is, whether it was designed and manufactured to the highest of standards, whether the airline is operating and maintaining it properly, or whether government agencies are providing proper oversight.
Because they all should be doing that in the first place, but knowing how, like, the standards were on me in the military, and knowing how the standards were on the Boeing people whenever they were at the base trying to do whatever the fuck they were trying to do. Because remember, like I said, I had experience with Boeing people at the base. They were there doing the full they were doing the full replacement on the entire grounded fleet for those bolts that kept the cockpit to the body, right? So the Boeing guys were held to no safety standards, essentially, whenever they were there. They were just allowed to do what they needed to do and go the fuck home. So they would often just sit in one place, do the thing, and then just fuck off. Granted, it was for long hours. They were all doing, like, maintenance, and they're all generally, like, fine people, but I have actually heard and see them, like, oh, well, time to get a new tool. It's ridiculous. It is insane how, like, lax this has been for so many years.
FAA, DOT, and NTSB leaders frequently state our aviation system is the gold standard. There's a reason commercial aviation has been historically safe, and that's because people worked extremely hard for decades to keep them safe. They told the truth. They admitted their mistakes, and they didn't downplay safety incidents.
Once again, don't look up the Damascus Titan missile explosion. Don't do it. Don't look up the Damascus Titan missile explosion. That is absolutely not a story about how the US military nearly blew everybody in a certain fucking goddamn state completely sky high with a nuclear weapon. Nope. Not because somebody lied. Nope. Not what that is. Do not look up the Damascus Titan missile explosion at citationpod.com. Whatever you do, don't do that.
These agencies have
Hello
become
there.
lazy, complacent, and reactive. The deterioration has been occurring over several years. My second point is the gold standard is now fool's gold. Because the only thing that is more dangerous than a dangerous environment is the illusion of a safe environment. 2 brand new airplanes crashed after exhibiting production-related electrical and electronic defects within their first month of operation, and the NTSB.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to. Look, I'm responding to Associated Press, as you can see, so it's under Creative Commons. And, like, I'm not saying anything that's against my military, and I'm not gonna actually, like, say anything that's, super offensive either. I'm just being a little bit of a shit sometimes, you know? Plus, I'm referring people to a comedy podcast. It's all fine. Like, I'm doing it of my own accord. They're not even paying me. I'm paying them to shill their product. I'm a patron.
did not investigate the factory. The evidence indicates the MAX crashes were triggered by manufacturing defects, not MCAS software. The NTSB is investigating the factory now. However, the reality is the NTSB is overly dependent on Boeing and the FAA to provide technical assistance in their accident investigations.
Okay, so this guy's testimony is also really alarming. So, he's going to testify that an electronic component malfunctioned, and that's what caused the MCAS system to fail. But he's also going to say that the MCAS system also is a part of the problem, because it was also, like, had a software bug. There's also other, like, manufacturing defects with it. So before we go too far, does everyone or anybody know what MCAS is? If not, it's fine. I'm about to break it down. It's Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, and the relevant information for the 737 MAX, which is a surprisingly popular aircraft, is that it pitches the nodes down whenever it senses that the engines are about to stall the plane because its engines are too powerful. What happened in the crashes apparently is that the NCAS software kicked on and they didn't know it. So they were just angling down and they couldn't like control for it because MCAS every like 5 seconds pitches you down. If it senses the wrong information. So something shorted, the MCAS system caught in and pitched the aircraft down at a certain thing, and that's what caused the crashes. They've only got one angle of attack sensor for the entire 737, which is fucking mind-blowing! I'm sorry, I have... What the fuck? I'm not an engineer. I want that to be perfectly clear. But on fighter jets, we have 2 or more. 1 for a jumbo jetliner? Are we for real? I'm sorry. As a mechanic who used to work on this stuff, as a person who used to do this professional, as a person who went, or who could have, I did not actually respond to any crashes, I wanted to be perfectly clear. As a person who could have responded to crashes of this kind, what the fuck, Boeing? Like, seriously, what in the absolute fuck is going on with this shit? Not to mention the wiring and software problems. 1?
They are not an independent investigative authority. There is an inherent conflict of interest. The Department of Transportation has been completely useless in helping the FAA do their jobs. They have continued to take a hands-off approach to this entire matter. My third point is, if the leaders of those government authorities, government agencies had done their jobs, investigators would have uncovered a mountain of important information. The FAA would have known Boeing's production processes were a mess and the safety culture was terrible.
Yes.
The FAA could have prevented an ever-increasing list of production quality defects. Instead, they're surprised each time it occurs, showing how ineffective and reactive their oversight has become.
A lot of that is because we've defunded a lot of our social systems here because we had to give tax breaks to the rich because we have so much corruption. Thanks. Thanks, myself from 2004. Thanks. Really great job voting in George W. Bush that second time. What's that, Obama? Yeah, let's gut the DOT more. We don't need more oversight. Oh no, there goes Donald Trump and the rest of our goddamn accountability! America fucking sucks.
Just last month, the FAA reported on uncommanded rolls of MAX airplanes due to wiring that is being chafed. Boeing and the FAA have known about these manufacturing defects for more than 2 years and did not inform the public about this potentially catastrophic condition. There are also Canadian reports of new MAX airplanes with chafed wire bundles containing burn marks and evidence of electrical arcing. Boeing routinely states that their airplanes meet or exceed all safety standards.
With, once again, chafed wire bundles, remember all that shit that I was talking about debris and, like, flight cable shit? Double so for electric wires. Yeah, no, it seems like Boeing's just being negligent. I I mean, okay, yeah, you're right. I was a clueless 18-year-old. I didn't know any better. But this is part my fault, right? I've got to accept responsibility for that. I don't like it, but I've got to do it. So do fucking a fuck ton of other people. Anybody in the Republican Party and who's been voting since George W. Bush, nut up and accept accountability. I'm sorry, this is your fault. I'm sorry, I'm just going off.
This is untrue and misrepresents the safety
You're
of
right.
airplanes.
I didn't
The
know any
company
better 20
illegally
years ago.
removed thousands of quality control inspections on individual airplanes without the FAA's knowledge and without the knowledge of the airlines. Although many of these inspections have been reinstated, hundreds of airplanes have left Boeing.
Okay, so I, much like Jim Cornette, take my jobs extremely seriously. This was my job. I got paid and like basically got college tuition for working and maintaining aircraft like this, right? This is the company that made all of the products that I was indentured to fucking work on. I was held to a higher standard than they ever fucking could be, and this is coming out in congressional testimony because the company itself refuses to do anything. People died because of their negligence. I'm not trying to be happy about this. I am so goddamn mad that this is coming out right now and that I was not necessarily forced to do better. I was expected to do better and held to that standard. Why the fuck do these guys get a pass? The fucking CEO needs to be held accountable. Everybody who worked on these things need to be held accountable because this is unacceptable for the people who provide almost all of our aircraft for any commercial travel. This is fucking ridiculous. As a person who worked on aircraft, who knows shit about aircraft, who knows shit like what is acceptable in this, this is alarming. As a person who could have responded to these crashes and dealt with all of these deaths. As a person who could have been personally affected and fucking like carrying composites and other things. As a person who would have been impacted by these flights at some point. Yes, I care heavily about the safety of our air travel, and this is alarming. People should know about it, and if not from me, from fucking who? Right? As a pseudo-expert on this, I need to talk about this, right? Whenever I found out about this, I didn't want to change the stream from FumpSoft Friday. I was required to, by my own personal sense of ethics, because what the fuck are we doing whenever we have to send fucking planes off to Boeing to get them inspected for the military and then have them come back only to do our own full inspection of the plane and find out that they did things wrong, like wired the flight controls backwards? Yeah, no, fuck that shit. No. We've had to deal with that forever. In the military, fuck it. That's fine. They're held to a laxer standard, whatever. Commercials now being affected. Not just that. It's always been affected because the military's always been held to a higher standard than commercial. So if you're only now being terrified because the 777, 787, and 737 MAX are the ones falling out of the air, remember,
most of this has been maintained by people who have been held to the laxest standards forever.
That's it. So, these are the standards that we're holding our largest aviation company to. We need to do something about this. This is important. This isn't as important as the January 6th shit, but I'm not a political expert. I can't say shit about the January 6th shit. I'm going to be sitting here like, wow. This, I'm like, yeah, no, literally. In just like a millimeter off, and like shear forces can do some weird shit because vibrations get fucking intense at sub and supersonic speeds. Like, because I know the fucking mechanics of this shit, because I'm an incredibly intelligent mechanic who has fought all this shit. I'm sorry, that's not you, that's just years of fucking everything coming out. But yeah, no, I'm pretty fucking pissed about this because this is goddamn.
Factories without those thousands of inspections. My last point is the Department of Justice and FBI relied on the slanted results of the first Max accident investigation to develop an illegal.
Because honestly, this is some Enron shit.
Agreement. The NTSB chair reiterated to Congress last week that Boeing has said there are no records documenting the removal of the Alaska Airlines door. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cover-up.
Yeah.
Records do in fact exist. I know this because I've personally passed them to the FBI. A 5-minute testimony is not nearly enough time to explain how insidious the story is. Boeing's corporate leaders continue to conceal the truth. They continue to mislead and deceive the public about the safety of the planes. That is the safety culture at the top of the Boeing company right now. The good news is...
That's been the safety culture for over... Let's see, I joined the military in 2006, got to my first station in 2007, so... Before that.
The employees of Boeing and these agencies can overcome poor leadership. We need them to be successful. They're highly capable. They need to be supported and encouraged. And these problems are fixable. But it starts with telling the truth.
Yeah, it does.
Thanks, Mr. Pearson. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Senators. My name is Joe Jacobson. I'm an aerospace engineer with almost 40 years of experience. I worked for Boeing.
Okay, by the way, the other reason that I take this so seriously, the other reason that it's all here, is that if anything were to happen to any aircraft that I ever worked on, I could be held for a military tribunal, right? I could have been sent to jail if I worked on something and put a bolt in incorrectly. This is hundreds of times worse, and we've done nothing.
From 1984 to 1995 on the 767 and 777 programs. From 1995 to 2021, I worked in aircraft certification at the FAA. I retired from the FAA in 2021 and have been volunteering as an independent aviation safety advocate since, mostly
Good job.
in support of the ET-302 families.
I don't know what
November
those are.
6, 2018, a week after the Lion Air 610 crash, I received an email from a colleague asking if we had done any issue papers on MCAS. This was the first day that I heard about MCAS. The next day, although not assigned to the crash investigation, I received an email from a colleague at the FAA which contained flight data recorder information from the Lion Air
At a certain
crash.
point, this is going
It
to
was immediately
freeze up
obvious to me
because
that
the
the 737 MAX had a serious design
because
flaw.
the stream
I saw that the
froze, so
horizontal
we're going to end
stabilizer
up.
was repeatedly moving at a high rate because of a faulty angle of attack input.
Yeah,
I guess that a software error was responsible. A few days later, I was shocked to discover that the airplane was purposely designed and certified to use just one AOA input for this flight critical function.
that is also unacceptable. I went off on it earlier, but seriously, military aircraft have more than one. Other aircraft built by other companies have more than one AOA sensor to do anything with flight controls. for backup reasons, for any other reasons, in case one thing shorts out, or in case you leave like a cover on or something, because this shit happens all the fucking time. We don't want to talk about it. It's not like it's a once in a thousand kind of thing, but shit happens, right? But yeah, no. So you have two just in case shit happens. They only had one on the 737 MAX. Hello, Freakin'.
When the House
Fleegan
report
first.
was released in September of
see you as well.
2020, I finally
sorry, I'm
understood
just-
why I hadn't
I'm
known
upset.
about MCAS. Boeing meeting minutes from June 2013 recorded the reason.
By the way, MCAS, maneuvering characteristics, augmentation system, it drives the aircraft downwards whenever the pitch is too high to avoid a stall. In this case, because they only had, let me remind you, one angle of attack sensor that shorts pretty easily, and the software is also a bit malfunctiony too. But it caused, during normal flight, the plane to start tipping down. Yeah, exactly. So, that's what happened to those 737s. That's it. And this is from the company that makes them and independent flight organizations. And the Boeing company has been covering it up for months. So, just so you know, if you're booking, don't book on a Boeing. Try for an Airbus or something else instead. Please. Be safe, my friends.
Boeing intentionally hid the design from FAA engineers and airline pilots. Had we known...
Oh yeah, I also forgot they didn't tell anybody that they installed MCAS. Or provide the returning pilots who didn't drive the MAX but did drive the 737. Oh yeah, I know. You're right. The first whistleblower did end up conveniently in a body bag. You are correct. But no, like, seriously, this is some shit. This is some weird ass shit. Like, they didn't teach the pilots that MCAS was on there, didn't tell them anything else. They had faulty wiring which caused false alarms often, and then had a genuine one go off whenever they were headed down in a system that checks every 5 seconds to see if it needs anything with one angle of attack sensor. So they will correct it, and then it would pitch down again, and that's what caused the crashes. Not only that, but they're also... I still think that we went to the moon with literal bytes of memory, because we did so many literal calculations on that with such, like, chalkboard calculations, 100%. We did that with literal rocket engines. That's, yeah, we can do that. A one-way shot to the moon and maybe a way back? Yeah, that's within workable limits. I can see that. We move supersonic all day. But god damn. Like, the person who was first on actually mentioned how his friend worked on the Challenger missile, or Challenger space program. By the way, exclamation mark shit tits for the Challenger, because I definitely don't want you to go to Citation Pod and learn more. Nope. Not at all. The only reason that I argue it is fact is because we, the first mission placed a retroreflector up there, and we can still actually, like, see the retroreflector with certain, like, laser telescopes and shit. We can actually do that. So, like, it's in the spot that the original one landed in. So we have proof, like, physical proof on the moon that we did do that shit.
At least a half dozen experienced FAA engineers in the Seattle office would have immediately rejected the original MCAS design. Boeing concealment led to 2 crashes and 346 deaths. After working on the recertification of the MAX after the second crash,
Yeah,
I sent a
exactly.
letter to the parents of Sammy Stumo shortly before my retirement in March of 2021. I saw their anger and grief and wanted them to know the true story and not the false narrative presented by Boeing and FAA. Over the last 3 years, Sammy's parents have connected me with many other crash families. I frequently communicate with the devastated people who have lost loved ones in the
I do not
ET302
begrudge this
crash.
man his job. He
I've heard
does
many
a
inspiring
fantastic one
stories
too.
about those who were
As far as
lost.
I know. I don't know. I'm not
Stories
trying to
about
comment on
Samia,
him.
Mick, Camille, Melvin, Bennett, Danielle, Graziella, and others. The recertification of the MAX has been characterized as the most comprehensive in the history of aviation.
And this
This is
jarhead behind
also
him,
a false
so good.
narrative. During the
He's a good night, Thorn. He's a independent safety inspector for I'll definitely try. For definitely for third-party things. He used to be an FAA safety administrator, so he goes around and like inspects crashes and shit. Even though he wasn't personally involved in any of the 737 MAX stuff, he did look into them in his own capacity as an independent investigator.
certification
And so him
of the
talking
MAX,
to people
FAA
afterwards,
leadership supported
again, I
Boeing's
don't begrudge
effort
his
to
job.
narrow the scope to primarily focus
But honestly, I would technically be a person that would be supporting him in his job as my repair and reclamation stuff. Because I would be one of the people, as I said, who would respond to crashes and investigate the space that's there. I'd be one of the people trained to pick up the refuse and other things, as well as like sort through the debris. If we needed like to lift the airframe, or if we needed to do anything like that, we would be out there with respirators and the Tyvek to salvage what we could. That's what I got paid for.
on MCAS. MCAS was a mess for sure, but other critical items were off the re-examination table. The MAX crew alerting system doesn't meet current design requirements, and by my count, the old standard.
Oh, there it is. There's the time. But no, this guy's got some experience with it, and he's spitting hot fire here. So yeah, apparently the MCAS system is bad, but the MCAS system isn't the worst thing about what was going on, because what was going on was worse. Was some really
An incorrect
big weird
understanding
shit.
of safety culture is that it is commonly referred to as a single concept, but rather it consists of 4 individual specific components, whereas each one provides its own unique actions to the overall concept of safety culture. And without one of these, the element and structure of culture will fall apart. As such, each serves the greater goal of providing a robust, effective,
Which is why your local McDonald's does not have a culture of cleaning. It has a culture of getting you the fuck out so they can serve someone else a hamburger. You know, I can understand how they were able to let them fly because people want money. That's it. That's the only reason that people let them fly, is because we rely too much on air travel in the United States, at least, to carry our goods and our people. Because otherwise it'd take too long for anything to do anything in the United States. That's the only reason that they're allowed to fly right now. Because of the 777s and the 787s are being, like, mismade. They're not able to fly. Yeah. So it's not necessarily structural integrity that's the problem. It's that the engines are too big. So the engines are bigger than the ones that were on there before, and because the airframe is so small with the big engines, the engine would just kind of kick them up into a stall zone because it's just too powerful for the airframe. So instead, they tried to just angle that out with a little bit of a nose down whenever engines were working at full capacity. And even if code is correct, one angle of attack pedo or one angle of attack center is fucking insane. You need at least 3 for that shit. That way you have backups on backups on backups. Otherwise you're gonna fucking crash. That's just what's gonna fucking happen. And to put that together with the fact that they have laxer construction standards than anything else, don't fly commercial. So this is what's on the menu. See the Boeing whistleblower thing? Gyroscopes are too expensive, I reckon. Yeah, I know, right? Except the gyroscope probably shorted out because the warning lights were going off, but those could have been any warning lights because the warning system's also busted. Like, this is a shit show, and I'm not even past, like, the first 20 minutes.
For all high-risk industries, especially given its proven value in aerospace.
I wanted to get through, like, an hour of this. I'm not going to.
This concept is not only for airline operations, but rather any aerospace operation where risk of injury or death
pretty much
possibility to employees and/or customer.
Once again, whatever you guys do, don't look up the Damascus Titan missile explosion on Citation Pod or the Challenger explosion on Citation Pod.
To be successful, organizations
just don't do it.
May not simply choose one or two of these components because they are less expensive or more manageable. In addition, in aerospace, not following all 4 components of the safety culture or just the ones that have less impact, thus to appear to regulators or shareholders that they are being responsive finally and expeditious is not acceptable. This type of action will produce a...
No, the Challenger was actually because of an O-ring. The Challenger was because an O-ring failed on launch, and so certain jet fuels mixed before they were supposed to, and caused a huge ignition, and it exploded. So one of the solid fuel containers, one of the solid fuel containers did a thing, and then there's also the Columbia, which was the other big space shuttle disaster, because for the length of the space shuttle program and for as bad as the space shuttle kind of was, we only lost 2 of those things. That's a fucking miracle, really. 1 to ice and 1 to a fucking malfunction that one of the people testifying here's friend narked on. That was fixable. Once again, don't look up the Challenger explosion on citationpod.com. Don't do that. Or the Damascus Titan missile explosion, which was absolutely not a time a person dropped a tool and caused an entire state to be nuked. Nope. That didn't happen. No, a missile exploded, though. A nuclear missile exploded on American territory. Don't find out more at Citation Pod. Don't do it. Nope, don't at all. Look up Damascus. Once again, they're not paying me to do this. I pay them to shield their product right now. I'm a patron of Citation Needed. I am telling you to do this. Well, not to do this. Against my own interest.
A non-viable, misleading, and potentially dangerous safety culture that will teeter on failure and provide a false sense of security. Let me be clear. When you try to increase productivity without the needed resources and being guided by poor management with only financial focus and the lack of assembly
though?
line inspectors, you are always borrowing from safety. You cannot have both.
No.
And case in point, this is where we see events like the door blowout with Alaska Airlines. NASA learned the hard way many decades ago, and other organizations, aerospace organizations, have as well. With
I
their new
definitely
plan to
did not
operate
give you
when
two
they
very
decided
good
they were gonna
episodes to
operate
start with.
faster, better, and cheaper. And it failed horribly. They learned that you can only have two of the three, never all three at the same time, or accidents will happen. When we examine these four components of what constructs a safety
Well, I didn't know
culture,
F# was the
it appears
programming
that
language,
Boeing
but
has
yeah,
none
I'd
of them
rather
under
take the
control.
L2.
And there is no evidence that this trend is in fact reversing. This was
Not at all.
discussed at the Huntington Beach conference in
It's actually
February of
gotten worse
2023,
since I was
which
in the
attended.
military and saw
But
the
there
lax
does not
standards
appear to
there.
be any evidence of such changes to any of the components on the horizon as a string of alarming events continue to unfold. In the safety engineering work, we call these precursors to accidents. And I have never in my decades of aerospace safety work seen so many continuing to arrive one after another. Where is the safety accountability?
Some of you will die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Oh, and definitely don't listen to the Finland conspiracy wisdom. Just definitely don't listen to that one. Like, seriously, don't listen to the Finland conspiracy. Like, don't. Don't. I don't need you to know that Eli Bosnick writes for citation needed, unless you're gonna listen to the Lady Di episode. If you're gonna listen to the Lady Di episode, that's fine. But the Finland conspiracy is a different thing. Don't. It's fine.
All the way to the CEO, where they discuss safety in addition to the money problems, all the way to the top. Some of these companies profess to practice, yet never seem to do that. All safety cultures, both those that have and profess to have a good safety culture and SMS programs, were developed by the FAA and provide guidance how to do that. At Boeing, is there safety accountability all the way to the top?
No,
This was
absolutely
discussed
not.
after
That's
the previous
100%
accident,
not
but where's
right.
the evidence for that? In closing, you would think that there would have been made clear after having been directly responsible for the two air carrier fatal accidents that at its core causation was 100% about money and about
Yes.
sneaking through the certification process and automation related component that killed 346 people over money. And yet we still have no proof that these programs have even entered the lexicon of Boeing. Aircraft, despite the hollow comments to the contrary at the Huntington Beach Safety
Yeah, sorry, I
Conference.
just need to make sure
So
that
it
I'm
leads
clicked
me
into
to
the
wonder,
right.
have we even
one.
gone backwards at Boeing? The Alaska Airlines event strongly supports that. My final comment is I have always felt as an accident investigator for over 20 years, and I've always said that with these accidents, maybe the upper management should actually go to these accident scenes and witness what they look like.
Yes.
As
I
the rest of
agree.
us do.
Look, I shouldn't be the only one traumatized when an aircraft goes down, right? I shouldn't be the only one whenever I hear an aircraft crashed last night. I shouldn't be the only one with terror, right? I shouldn't be the only one being like, oh shit, now I've got to suit up and I'm in for some really bad days ahead. I hope I don't breathe composites. I shouldn't be the only one out there trying to figure out what the fuck happened. The people who caused this problem should be out there doing it too. Granted, that's why I got the most dangerous other jobs too, technically the cushiest jobs, but I was the person rigging flight controls. I was the person in charge of replacing cables whenever it came to the time to replace flight control cables, right? I'm that guy. So I know better than anyone. Yeah, like, they need to be arrested tomorrow for the culture that they've made and for just this first testimony. Sam Sailfor here? Yeah, no, him, fucking phenomenal. He is amazing. And he's talking about how the 747, people are jumping up and down on components to get them to fit together? Are you fucking insane? As a person, again, who worked on aircraft for a living, who knows the value of this, that's fucking retarded! That is a way to get your fucking fuselage to rip in fucking half because a bolt sheared. What the fuck? And on the 787, he was saying gaps were coming out about 5 millimeters. Not a big, that's this length. That's this. But a gap that fucking big is fucking ridiculously small. But at the same time, in a fucking, in an aircraft, if anything's going on, this is happening. Whenever this is happened, yes. Yes! Absolutely! That's alarming! That's why you need to shim that shit. That's why you need to make sure that you can't get that shit through. Because even if there's like the tiniest bit of little wiggle room, that's why everything has a torque value on an aircraft. Like, even the screws that keep the metal panels to the airframe, to keep everything, they have a torque to it. Do you know why they have a torque to it? To make sure that they are exactly to specification. Otherwise, it's just, it's bad. It's just, there is no otherwise. You'll break a nut plate. You'll break a screw. You'll break the thing. It's completely fucking, yes. This is insane. No, we should have done this. We should have done this when the F-15 fell in half. Whenever a Boeing F-15 had its cockpit separate from its fuselage, we should have absolutely 100% investigated Boeing. People should have been fired from that event. Oh, yeah. Look it up. It happened in like 2008, 2009. The entire F-15A through E were grounded for this. Because an F-15A, was it an A or was it a C? I can't remember, but it was a single-seater. Had 4 shear bolts, right? There are shear bolts at the back of the cockpit in the fuselage. They're meant to shear in case of whatever, but they're shear bolts, and they connect the fuselage to the mainframe, and that's what that is. They just have it, and there's 4 of them, right? This is in the fucking news, so military, this isn't fucking confidential. This is what happened. Those bolts, after so many years of not being inspected, because these airframes were made in the 1950s. Right? These airframes from the 1950s didn't have these inspected until the 2000s. The entire fucking fleet got them all changed at the same time for this thing because Boeing found that they were a problem and likely to go. But yeah, it's a thing called crisis experience where someone directly, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's But yeah, no, it's insane. But yeah, that happened. An equipment failure on a Boeing aircraft sheared caused in the death of one pilot and the loss of millions of dollars in military equipment. The entire fleet of F-15s were grounded for this one thing, and then Boeing replaced those bolts and fucked off. I worked by the people who were doing this job, and they would come up unaccountable with tools and other things. It's, as a person held to the literal technical order standard, like, you give me the Chilton's manual for that fucking aircraft and I'll make it sing for you. Right? I can do that. That's what I did. But the people who build and maintain this in the private sector didn't have them out. Didn't really have them around. They had them, maybe. Didn't look at them. Knew their job. It's fine. Whatever. They've been working on an aircraft for 30 years. Fuck it, right? But these are the people doing all this shit. What the fuck?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So
Professor
don't,
Peters.
whatever you do, just apparently just don't fly right now.
I would be happy to talk to you after this hearing is done. If you... I want to spare you being removed and just tell you that we will be happy to take those documents and meet with you privately. And we welcome your being here. We also welcome the presence.
I mean, I don't think it is diversity, inclusion, and equity in this. I think it's just corporate greed. Like, that's generally what it is whenever this shit happens, is because of that. But what the fuck submarine are you talking about? I have no idea what diversity, equity, and inclusion did for a submarine.
The fact that there are real people who perished in those two crashes. There are real people at risk.
It's the type of horrible we need to do more about.
Right now. No reason to panic, but a reason for deep concern. And we thank everyone who may have documents or information to bring to our attention. We thank you.
DEI had nothing to do with that.
Keeps ringing in my ears is that phrase, 100% about money. My understanding about what happened here is that Boeing sought to produce more airplanes more quickly without the necessary testing, inspections, and then sought to conceal and cover up what it knew was happening. Is that aligned with your view of the facts here?
Absolutely. That
is what happened.
Part of it,
yes.
Because those things are expensive. And there's more to it. There's other things that go into that process. One of the biggest is the inspectors. Cutting back and getting rid of your inspector staff that looks at all the parts to make sure that these things are assembled correctly. We saw this with the accident, with the Alaska accident.
One of the lessons.
That's not diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's a fucking... That's an asshole being an asshole. He's not hiring diverse people because they're diverse people who are right for the job. He's hiring diverse people to look woke. Right? So it's not diversity's fault that the asshole didn't want experts. He didn't have a DEI core, essentially. He just hired unqualified people because they didn't tell him no.
Here is that shortchanging safety with shortcuts is short-sighted.
Yeah.
I want to ask
Exactly.
Mr. Salpour.
That's not a DEI. That's not a DEI problem.
Many of us who may
DEI
not
is to
understand
hire
technology or
qualified
mechanics
people.
here.
of
My
certain
understanding of your
backgrounds that
testimony
aren't
is that
just like the
Boeing, in
favored
effect,
people. So DEI is to
fastened
get the
parts of the
right people for
fuselage
the job,
together
recognizing that people
using
of minority
force
status in the
rather
United
than
States
proper
often
shimming,
had to work harder
and
to
thereby
get to the
created
same
a
position
severe risk
because
that
they started from a
use over time
further back
and
place.
fatigue of
So
the
odds
parts
are
and
you're getting a
fasteners
better candidate whenever you're hiring
create
someone
risks to
with
safety. Is that roughly
DEI
correct?
in mind.
Yes, sir. I think they are using significant excessive force to squash the gaps before you measure it. If you squash in the gap before you measure it, you don't know what you're getting, because
No,
the
not at
purpose
all.
of that
You've
is
got to
to
measure the gap first.
in its free state. When
Yes.
you squash that with excessive force, basically
When you squash that at all, you get the wrong answer. Period. You've got to measure a gap as it sits together before you with the bolt in it. That way, whenever you're trying to tighten the nut, you've already got you can know where the shim placement and everything else is.
you're getting false information. If you get the gap measured falsely, you are not going to shim it properly, and it's a danger to the airplane.
Yes.
It's very, very important. Boeing has put out reports that they say that they can lose almost 80% of the airplane life cycle if we don't follow these protocols, which it is the proper shimming, measuring the gap.
That's actually how we've ended up having the oldest F-15 fleet that we have. Like, that's why we have so many F-15s from the 50s, is because we've been following like the full technical manual stuff, right? It's great, but at the same time, if Boeing's not doing that and not even trying now, heads need to roll.
One remedy,
Yeah.
or one precaution would be proper testing. Has Boeing ever shown you conclusive testing results that would dispel your concerns?
Testing?
No, sir.
What
First
testing?
of all, the testing that we're talking about, I have never seen it, any of the information. The second is the airplane is the king. The numbers that you get from the actual airplanes, regardless of what the testing done, that should be considered. And my data that I was using in my assessment is from the 29 airplane that it was inspected.
Mr.
Yeah,
Pearson and
again,
Mr.
he's an
Jacobson
engineer. He's a new whistleblower since the other one ended up
their safety due the
dead under mysterious
allegations
circumstances.
that Mr. Salapore has brought to our attention.
Boeing killed him.
In light of
Sorry,
your experience.
had something caught in my
I just wanna say
throat.
that I can't obviously technically, say that what he's saying is absolutely right. I just don't know that. But I will say that the problem that he's describing, where he's trying to get information and he's basically being told, basically shut up, don't worry about it. And, he's obviously making an effort, a long effort, to try to get to the truth. And what should happen is somebody should say, here's the data, here's the information. He shouldn't have to wait until becoming a whistleblower to get that information.
No.
Mr. Jacobson, you worked at the FAA for quite a while. Mr. Pearson and as well Mr. Salapore have been critical, as many of us have been, of the FAA. In fact, Mr. Pearson has brought to the attention of federal authorities information about the potential failings of those investigative steps by federal agencies.
Once again, as a person who voted for George W. Bush, I apologize. This is partly my fault. We've deregulated the FAA to where it has no clause in the modern day, partly due to Trump, partly due to Obama, and definitely due to, back to Reagan, really. All of these problems stem back to Reagan. Fuck. Goddamn.
Do you think just assigning more inspectors to Boeing from the FAA is a sufficient solution?
Well, certainly having more inspectors is helpful in certain circumstances. I think in the Renton factory, having more inspectors, more of an on-site presence is very important.
Oh, we
But the
absolutely
attitude
need
needs
more
to
government
change.
boots on the ground for
attitude
this
right
one.
now is Boeing dictates to the FAA, tells the FAA what they will do, what they will accept.
Yeah, so we technically, okay. So there's a certain amount of flying hours that every airframe can maintain, and then they're supposed to go to the manufacturer for repair. I can't tell you what that is, A, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, and B, because it's none of your fucking business. It's classified, in other words. I can't tell you. But no, as I mentioned earlier about Boeing's tool control, the first thing that you would do after we would receive the aircraft back, and I think I mentioned this again earlier, but it doesn't matter, new people watching all the time, is you would take the aircraft that you just sent to Boeing for a full inspection, by the way. Full inspection. For another acceptance inspection, where we would find that they had fucked shit up and left tools in the plane. Again, that's for military hardware. Imagine what's going on in your commercial hardware. Imagine what's going on at that local airport.
And that needs to change. The FAA needs to be a regulator. They need to do their job. And that's the
I mean,
missing piece
hey,
right now.
Whatever floats your boat.
The FAA has been too captive to Boeing.
They absolutely have been too captive to Boeing. And that is one of the big problems that I've seen. Even when we were trying to recertify the 737 MAX,
because whenever
try and focus the
whenever the
attention on
previous
certain
person was
things
talking,
like
he was talking about
MCAS
chafed wire
to the
bundles.
exclusion of other,
Oh man, especially
parts
whenever
of
the
the
previous
airplane
person
or
was talking about how
design
they
or
would
the
still leave
manufacturing
debris in the
needed to
holes
be
that they would drill,
investigated.
which is
And
again not
Boeing
uncommon
and
from
the
a
FAA
from a
went
Boeing
along with that at high levels,
inspection
went along
plane.
with that,
By the way,
the redirect from the Boeing company.
Mr. Salapur, I showed you earlier a photograph of a tire wheel from your car. That bolt was inserted by someone as a threat, perhaps as a risk to you.
Yes, I was losing just air on my tire, and I bring it somewhere, and they say, hey, you have a nail in the tire. That's about 1 month old.
yes,
Tire.
100%,
So I brought it back to the shop and they
100%.
fixed it. And they fixed it. I went to pick it up, and the gentleman told me that, this nail was not picked up through normal driving. I didn't know anything about that. He's the one who brought it.
So
to my attention.
intentional
And I
harassment
came
apparently
home and I had
by
to go all the way
his
back there to get
employer.
the tire, to just save the tire. It was like 25-mile drive. But anyway, but the bottom line is that, yes, the nail was inserted in there. I believe it happened at work. I have no proof of that.
No, I feel
You
so
mentioned
bad for
also
this
a
guy.
threat to your physical safety. Someone saying they would
Yes,
have killed you if they
someone
heard.
told me they're going to kill. They would have killed someone like me if you said something, what you said. So.
The FAA issued an absolutely scathing report about Boeing, and Boeing has said that it's developing
This
an
is
action
this
plan.
testimony, like in here, is
I'd like
so.
to ask you, Mr. Pearson, should we rely on Boeing to, in effect, develop its own action plan,
I just oof.
evaluate itself, and go on about its business? Or do we need continuing investigation?
We absolutely need continuing investigation.
Yes,
Honestly, I'm so tired of
absolutely
hearing about
more
Boeing. We
investigation
need
into
action,
this,
and,
but we do need
know,
more. Like we need
you can
heads to
plan all
roll, and
day
we needed
long,
it
but
to
if you don't
roll
actually carry
yesterday.
towards it,
We
doesn't
needed to
matter.
be doing a better job in this sector a long fucking time ago.
One of the common themes here, we need action, not just more talk. I'm going to yield at this point. We're observing a 7-minute round, and we're going to try to
Apparently,
Senator Johnson.
So let me
their
point out
intimidation was a
this-
bolt in a fucking tire and a dude who is
the
dead. So
tremendous pressure, society-wide.
they killed 300 on the rig. So what's one more?
I mean, if we were to literally ground stop 737s,
I hate this
what would
guy.
happen to our economy? That's why we don't even like contemplating that reality. But I want to start focusing on the 737 because that's the one issue. You got the 787, then you have the subcontractors.
This
from my
guy's a
standpoint,
fucking
the three, and
dickhead.
then the overall culture of Boeing.
He
But
wants to
there's a
acquit
discrepancy
Boeing.
between our
Like,
two witnesses
just
here.
listening to him,
Mr.
sorry.
Pearson, you were saying that it was a manufacturing defect. And
Here,
Mr.
I'll
Jacobson,
actually go back because I was talking over him. Senator Johnson here, fucking rancid prick. Absolutely a Republican. I just listening to his testimony, I can tell, or not his testimony, but his questions, I can tell just the way that he asks things. But just listen to him. I'll shut the fuck up. Fuck this guy.
Pound grill in the room is the tremendous pressure, society-wide, to keep these planes flying. I mean, if we were to literally ground stop 737s, what would happen to our economy? That's why we don't even like contemplating that reality. But I want to start focusing on the 737 because that's the one issue. You got the 787, then you have the subcontractors, from my standpoint, the three, and then the overall culture of Boeing. But there's a discrepancy between our two witnesses here. Mr. Pearson, you were saying that it was a manufacturing defect, and Mr. Jacobson, you're focusing on the MCAS, which is what the public was all told. It was that control system, and with only a single indicator that if that went defective. So again, that was the story told. What is the truth?
So, both can be true, fuckhead. Sorry, I don't know why you can't hold two things in your fucking head at the same goddamn time, but they're both bad. They're both fucked. But no, you can only think about the precious fucking money that's gonna bleed from your wallet. Fuck you, you're not even taxing the people flying this shit. Get better, fuckhead! I'm sorry, I really hate this guy.
Truth. I mean, we'll start with you, Mr. Jacobson.
Well, the truth is, it's more than one thing, right? It's the entire system. You have to look at manufacturing. You have to look at also at the design. Since the MAX has gone back into service, this is the list of manufacturing. These are unsafe conditions that are identified by the FAA in the manufacturing area. Engine anti-ice, exhaust duct fasteners, compromised seal and adhesion within the center fuel tank, loose bolts in the rudder assembly, stuck rudder pedals,
Loose bolts in the rudder assembly. Sticky rudder pedals? Joe Jacobson, I'm not gonna fucking like rag on him too much, but whenever he's responding to the incredibly biased question of Senator Johnson, who is trying to pass the buck onto like, hey, you guys seem to be telling different stories. You gotta look at the entire system is pretty much the only way that you can answer that sneering question, right? So while it does seem like no shit Sherlock answer, it's kind of the answer that was needed for the sneering question that was asked. Like, you could absolutely have responded like I did, but this is the halls of Congress. This guy handled it great. I'm a mechanic who's an asshole on the internet. I can shout fuck you from the top of my lungs. He can't.
installed electrical wire bundles in the wing spoilers. And then, of course, the door blowout was also a manufacturing defect. So we have a
But yeah, no, people want to fly, that's fine. People want to feel safe in their, like, beliefs, it's fine. Air travel is still technically the safest mode of travel, but we have to look at what's going on. Because while it's a fucking miracle that planes stay up at all, and we're doing what we can with it, but I know I know the people who are working on this are underpaid, understaffed, and under fucking like prepared because they've got to do it maybe at night. Like, when do we actually have time to maintain our 737s whenever we're doing turnarounds at like everything? So they've got to do a full flight to a place and then back, and then we come back and then like we don't have people going out in between flights to service the aircraft. We have them going out and unloading bags and filling it up so that it can get across the country, so that it can go back to its point of origin, and then maybe get a rest, maybe get a tune-up. That's sick. Do you know how often military jets break? Every time they fly. You go up, you land, something broke. Oh, no. The special effects on Disney movies or on certain Disney movies are shit because Disney didn't give a fuck about that movie. I'm not saying that animation fields are not overpaid. They kind of are, but at the same time, we're overvaluing AI art at the moment and the creative touches, and it's whatever. They don't always have to. Yeah, they do. Every plane breaks every time they go out. It's not exactly stable, my man. Especially if you're supersonic. I'm only speaking specifically for supersonic things, but at the same time, like, if anything goes wrong, if anything, like, even subtly shakes and they suspect something, they're gonna write it up and say something broke. So it's better to assume that something broke if they go up. I mean, most of the time, whenever I say something breaks every time they go up, I'm legitimately saying, like, the pilot hears a knocking. Like, it might just be because they hit a shake, so they hear a knocking sound somewhere. Something happened. We can't do anything about that, but that broke the plane. Fair? So it's not every time, I'm a little exaggerating, but every time something comes up. Like, there might be an oil leak, or there might be... That's why we do... In the military, that's why whenever the plane comes down to rest for the day, the crew chief will go out and just, like, examine the plane to see what's wrong with it. Basically with the pilot, or after talking with the pilot, right? Yeah, right? Good thing passenger planes have higher... Oh, wait. Yeah, no, I've known about this for years. I'll still fly commercial. Or at least I would. Like, Boeing lost all trust in the aviation industry for this. Or at least I hope so. Because if I was seeing the lax standards back then, and I still thought that it was alarming but acceptable, now... I'm never gonna fly a fucking again! Are you fucking kidding me?
A long list of unsafe conditions from manufacturing defects. We also have a long list, equally long list of design defects. So what that tells me is it's a company-wide problem. It's not.
So the MAX was taken out of service for how long? Quite
was
some
out-
time, right?
Oh, I
20
doubt
months.
too.
20 months. And again, the public, I was certainly hoping.
Oh, yeah. It'll take 20 months to fix the outstanding issues with the 737 MAX. We have to keep all of them grounded for 20 months to fix them. While I really hate Senator Johnson, upon hearing that, I'm again so goddamn mad at Boeing. We can't... Oh my god, we just can't, though! We are actually so reliant on the 737, not just for passenger, but for cargo. It's one of the main things that drives our fucking... are U.S. mail. Like, this is so bad for the United States commerce. I don't think anybody understands. I'm not trying to be alarmist. I don't want to be alarmist. I'm not trying to be panicked about any of this. But I'm just, like, what the absolute fuck, Boeing? What the absolute fuck, the United States?
Assuming that,
Like, we have
Probably
other
wants
cargo
to
ships. We have
detect
other
defects,
ways to do it.
but
We
they
have
did
other ways to
install
ship.
more of the
But
indicators,
man,
right?
is it the most
They
common
somewhat
fucking
fixed that
plane?
problem.
The 737 is the most common plane in America. Yes! I know, and we've been balancing on this knife's edge for a little while now, because we've been stripping everything away since at least the 70s. Granted, a lot of this started with Nixon. Nixon fucked shit up. Carter came in, tried to do a job, but he's a peanut farmer, not a politician. And then we tipped to fucking Reagan, and the entire fucking economy starts getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And now we're here! Where one blocked straight causes so much inflation, and this could cripple America. I don't know what to feel, my mans. This is, again, my second time watching this. This is me just, like, reacting still. I haven't been able to voice any of this. This is just, like, this is what I've got. What am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do about this? We're not supposed to do shit. But shit needs to happen yesterday. And I don't know how. Quick, somebody invent a time machine. Please, somebody, please. Can we? Can we? I'll just pass better design docs. I'm not even an engineer. I'll just suggest, hey, put 2 pitot probes on there. Poof! And then I'm gone. Like a magical fucking fart fairy. I don't fucking care! Look, this is why I don't want to do politics content. This is why I don't want to do this shit. This is not fun for me. I'm not having fun right now. I mean, I'm having fun. I'm being funny. But, I mean, apparently we just need to wait till the next lightning storm. And then we've got to get onto a clock tower. And somehow, well, no. We just need a Cybertruck. It'll be fine. No one's going to miss it. Actually, no. You know what? A new Back to the Future, where you have to go to the 80s and the time machine's a fucking Cybertruck. Oh my god, I'd pay so much money to see that. I hate myself. I fucking hate myself. But that's fucking funny. God damn it, I'm just providing this shit for free, too. Come on, man! Pay me! Sorry, don't mean to shout that. Anyway, back to the dark, depressing shit. By the way, I hope everybody's appreciated that I've had Deception, Demon Souls, and fucking Vagrant Story music in the background to keep the dark and depressing tone, because I want this to be as serious as possible, and I cannot play like my happy-go-lucky shit during this. It would feel too tonally inconsistent. I needed something dour, something dark, something in there. Because otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to do this, right? This has actually kind of helped me stay focused. It's so good. Holy shit! Wisdom! Thank you so much! Oh, wow! Dude! Alright, Thunderflame1 with a new gifted sub, Desmormos with a gifted sub, The Maple Toast with a gifted sub, Big Boss M1911 with a gifted, Blue Senpai Twitch also with a gifted sub. Right? Oh, man. Oh, if only. Oh, man. Oh, man! No, it's even better now! I've made it even better! Oh my god! No, you go back in a Cybertruck to 1985 to bankrupt Elon Musk. That's it! We've made the movie! Print! I'll shoot it tomorrow! Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yes! We go back and the Cybertruck's legitimately just out of place because the American car is now like... Because this one thing just has such a knock-on effect on everything else. It's so good. No, that's the perfect... That's how I know I've lost my mind. Okay. Wisdom, if you want to take lead on that script, you can have it for free. In fact, anyone can have it for free. Anything that comes out of my mouth right now, anyone can have for free. I know that's $1 billion idea. Someone just take it and run with it. Please. Please. It's so good. It's so good! I mean, I'm not even getting into casting right now. No, never mind. We gotta go back to Asshole Johnson. We have to!
Are all these other problems completely unaddressed, not fixed?
There were many problems that were unaddressed. The crew alerting system is the big one. That one was not addressed. That contributed to the crashes. The pilots had a lot of false indications going on.
Record scratch. Perfect. Yes.
And they're trying to figure out what's going on. In the meantime,
oh, perfect.
The stabilizer
Wonderful.
is running and the nose
Thank you,
is
Wisdom.
running down. So it's a combination of things that need to be addressed.
What do the pilots have to say about this? I mean, one of my...
What do the pilots have to say about this? What do the fucking pilots have to say about this? My man. I know that that's the demographic that's most likely to fucking agree with you, but the pilots, I could give a shit less what the fucking pilots have to say. You've got an engineer in here telling you that this shit's unsafe. Woo! You know this man drives the Cybertruck.
Things that comfort me is that, pilots are concerned about safety. They do some safety checks even before they get on the airplane, but they're the ones that have to fly these things. What do pilots have to say about the 737 MAX right now?
Well, You know, I've heard some reports. You know, Dennis Tazier has been very vocal. He's an American Airlines MAX pilot. Also works with us at the Foundation for Aviation Safety. He's been very vocal about the shortcomings of the MAX.
Does he fly them?
He does.
And
He
still
said he
flies
was a
them?
MAX pilot.
Flies them, and he says, "Why is Boeing putting all these extra hazards into my cockpit?"
Because they are! They legitimately are! And it's only because they wanted to flex their big fucking jet dick!
It's a big enough job to fly this airplane and take care of the passengers in the back. I don't need extra problems to be dealing with, like manufacturing defects, design defects, and they're one after another. There's a long list that I've put in my written
Mr. Pearson, do you have anything to add to that on the 737?
No, I totally agree with Mr. Jacobson. You know, when they investigated the accidents, they narrowly scoped it and they kept it very tight. And as an example of that, when the plane was returned to service, the MAX airplanes were returned to service, they said that they fixed the MCAS.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. Senator Mike Johnson is one of our worst senators. I don't know if that's Mike Johnson because Johnson is like a fucking such a common. Fucking Steve Johnson is like the most common goddamn name in America right now. And it's fucking ridiculous, okay? So I can't tell if that's fucking Senator Mike Johnson or if that's someone else. But if that's fucking Mike Johnson, who I fucking think it is, then that fucking asshole was the Senate Speaker for a time. I think he got booted recently, but I have no fucking clue what's going on in our house, rather. It's the House. It's not senators. These are, these are senators. Never mind. Fucking, then it's not Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's in the House. So this Senator Johnson's just a fucking idiot. But he's absolutely one of those, like, reality deniers, because if he hears one pilot say, yeah, no, I felt totally safe flying this goddamn plane. Nah, it has a little bit more to it, but it's not that bad. I could deal with a couple of warning lights every now and then. Who doesn't? That's just the nature of being a pilot, right? Did it. And he'll be like, rubber stamp, red stamp, good to go! Because he doesn't fucking care. He just wants the money. He just wants the money for his friends, who give him lots of money.
Software, and they provided the pilots the training.
Oh, because I don't know if everybody knows this. Remember how I said I work on Boeing airframes? Oh yeah, that's right. I do! Boeing is the largest military supplier in the fucking world. Yes, all of our fucking military aircraft are made by guess fucking who? Boeing! Yeah. That's a problem. Because guess who's funding Boeing, then, with their military budget that's 60% of their total budget? A large portion of that is going to Boeing. Yeah. That's why Senator Johnson is a fuck. I don't know if he takes Boeing money, but the way that he's acting tells me that he's in Boeing's pocket. So, fuck him. I don't feel any loyalty to him. He's not my representative. Mine's ironically Nancy Pelosi. Oh, and Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee's great, by the way. And Nancy Pelosi actually signed on to stop genocide. Oh my god. Please, Biden, please stop funding the goddamn genocide. Please, please, please! Yeah, 100%. And we did it all by design. We did it all for the money. The what? The money. The what? So you can take that whatever the fuck and get the fuck out of my goddamn face with that Limp Bizkit ass bullshit. Jesus goddamn Christ. I'm fucking going full TN trying to use solar flare to banish this goddamn hearing.
That they needed. And then they said, we fixed some wiring, but it was unrelated to the accidents. Well, a couple months ago, we found the service bulletin that was sent out to the airlines to fix some wiring. That document was 343 pages long. It identified at least 12 areas on the airplane that had improper electrical installation. And I will tell you that when those planes were being built, we were having repeat problems getting our functional testing done correctly. And this is something that we continued to push and push and push the planes out the door, and we were having difficulty getting our aircraft systems testing. What people don't know, and I'll just...
Then don't ship. I'm sorry. Then don't ship! Say, sorry, my man. Hey, that's fine. I mean, yeah, I'm alright. I'm freaking out, yeah, because it's serious, and it's something that I can kind of just, like, enforce the gravity of because I know the gravity of it, right? So, while I'm not having, like, a great time, this is legit, like, this does hurt, so I am going hard because I can't help it, right? This is legitimately personal to me. Like, I don't know how not to make this personal for me. Oh no, because money. So I'm trying to take the steps back. That's why I'm pausing, and that's why I'm trying to take the breaks. That's why I even like came up with the Cybertruck thing in the first place. My brain, as a defensive mechanism, just said, "Hey, here's a funny fucking thought." Okay. No, I'm saving that. I'll message you in a bit, Wisdom. I'll message you in a bit.
To give you a couple of examples very quickly, is in the Lion airplane, that sensor, that angle of attack sensor, was removed the day before, replaced with the refurbished sensor. On the next flight, the plane almost crashed. On the next flight, it did crash. When that plane hit the ocean, it went right into the seawall. They never recovered that sensor that was just installed, but they...
Okay, so the plane almost crashes. They replace a sensor. The plane does crash. That's so fucking ridiculous. Jeez. So the way it crashed meant that we couldn't get the thing back. No, we couldn't at all. So we have no way to recover it, but we have the old one. So now let's listen to what he's going to say about the old one that caused the near crash.
Had the original Boeing installed sensor, and they tested that sensor, and it had an open circuit in it. It had evidence of arcing and burn marks. And so that is an example. And then I'm just pointing that out.
That's getting a level of detail right now. I don't have. Okay, fine. Appreciate that. Again, I'll keep. This shows you, Mr. Chairman, what we need to get the airlines in here, whether they want to or not. They have to come in here and talk about what they're doing in response to these technical bulletins. We need to get pilots in here. We need to talk to pilots, because from my standpoint, they're almost the last line of defense in terms of safety from the flying public, because they're on that. I would never get on a plane that's autonomous. Never.
Senator, I echo what you're saying, but I think we also need to broaden that aperture. We need to talk to the mechanics and the technicians and all those individuals.
No, again,
yes,
as you said in your testimony, five minutes testimony doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Hour and a half hearing doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. That's what I said. This needs to be an in-depth investigation. There's a lot of elements to this thing. in preparing for this, I did listen to one NBC News report, and this is on the 787 on this gap, and they were reporting that Boeing had apparently stress tested a plane, 165,000 takeoffs and landings, which is 3 times normal life. They inspected 689 of the 1,100 planes that are in service, 0 evidence of fatigue. So,
okay, so what I think he did there was a bit of pseudoscience and also accepting Boeing at its word. So, what he said there was a particular plane was stress tested far beyond its normal capabilities, and it seemed to have no show of fatigue. That was probably an incredibly well-maintained, well-operated, and well-kept, machined, no pun intended, plane. So, if they had a 737 that did that, there's no way possible that they could have a MAX that did that. Because the amount of flights that he's talking about, that's an insane number of flights. That had to be a 737. And a 737, properly maintained over dozens of years, probably wouldn't show that much fatigue. But, he's trying to imply that it's over and over again, and again, he's confusing it with the 737 instead of just taking the MAX as a new thing, because the MAX is a new thing. The MAX is a 737 body with the 777 engines. The wiring had to be entirely redone because they needed a maneuvering characteristics augmentation system, or MCAS. I apologize, refreshing for people who may not have seen the earlier parts, and it's fine. And that was poorly done, fucker. I'm sorry, you lose. Good day, sir.
how am I supposed to interpret that?
Well, I think Boeing tries to put a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
The problem is that 165,000 was on the original airplane.
There it is! Right there! I made the guess! I mean, yeah, I did pre-watch, but I have ADHD. I don't remember this shit.
It did not see the excessive forces that we're talking about. If you haven't done the excessive force on those planes, they just thrown that out there to muddy up the water so that information
I knew it.
is
I
so
fucking
plugged
knew it!
up that they are not. You know, they saying they done 40,000 tests or whatever. You know, did they put the information out there? Under what circumstances, what airplanes, what was the situation? None of that is shared. I have asked Mrs. Fall, you know, Lisa Fall, that it was on that thing 2 months ago or 3 months ago. When I met her, I said, hey, you know, I'm complaining to her about the 787. She said, I'll have somebody get you the information. You probably haven't seen
And
the
nobody gave him his
I have not
information.
seen any information whatsoever. As a matter of fact, you know, like they're just throwing that stuff. If you want to change the information, like the 165,000, then you need to rerun that test with 165,000 with the new excessive force and show that it's good.
You got to show your work. Just one quick question for Mr. Pearson. You said you had delivered records to the FBI. First of all, how did you obtain those records, and have you heard back from the FBI?
The records were sent to me, and
From an internal whistleblower?
from an internal whistleblower, and I provided those records to the FBI. And again, you know, for the last couple months, there's been, you know, talk that there's no records, and that's
And
obviously
this
not
on the
case.
Alaska.
Okay, so apparently also, according to Boeing, the files are that this guy who got them from a whistleblower inside, probably the guy who died, yeah, the leaks that the FBI have, those don't exist, according to Boeing. Not that the FBI doesn't have claims. The FBI has information, but that information's not Boeing information. I don't know where you get that.
An airline.
This is only
situation
Alaska
that,
Airlines.
That Boeing apparently overwrote the video that would have shown. Again, I've talked.
Oh,
to
this
Boeing,
is a
said that's
different
just like
thing?
normal, it's 30-day cycle, and it's mainly, it's not really, the video's not there to document the maintenance. It's really to document other things potentially, but it's overwritten regularly.
Yeah, I'm talking about the actual documentation that they've been saying has not been available. It is available.
It is available, and the FBI
and it has been available for months.
Okay.
There you go. Fuck off, Senator
Thanks,
Johnson.
Senator Johnson. We're going to go to Senator
Fuck your
Marshall, then
face.
Senator Hassan, and Senator Hawley.
Lemon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Salapore, you've described several significant events since you came forward with your claims. One was the nail in the tire. You described your life was being threatened. Do you feel that this style of retaliation against you has been part of Boeing's efforts to silence and prevent you from sharing your story?
I think the retaliation, somebody even was calling me on my personal phone, time after time. This is my personal phone,
Well, what were they saying?
By the way, this is fucking harrowing and another reason why I needed to show this today.
Well, my boss was calling me there, and for 40 minutes, he kind of berated me and chewed me out. I have a work phone that he can use, but he's calling you on your personal phone, and it reminds me of, people who they stalk people or something like that. They call you on your personal phone to let you know that they know where you live, they know where you are, and they can hurt you. And, after the threats and after this, it's like, it really scares me. Believe me, but I am at peace. If something happens to me, I am at peace because I feel like by coming forward, I will be saving a lot of lives, and I'm at peace.
Did you hear his voice? Did you see his goddamn eyes? He believes he's gonna die. I hope you don't, my man. I hope the rest of your years are long and prosperous. I'm sorry. I don't know what's gonna happen to this man. But he believes that the other person was murdered. 100%. That's all I can say. Will I let that influence my belief? I mean, maybe a little. Sure. The official story's a little whack, and I don't know much about the goddamn story, so I have no firm belief on the matter at the moment. But yeah, hopefully witness protection or something, but his real name's out there and his face is on the internet, and I just shared it too. I understand. But I hope that I've impressed the importance of all of this onto you guys. I cannot testify in front of Congress because I have no expertise in the field of the 737 or the internal Boeing cultures. I can't help with this. Except for by doing what I've done, and I know that I can't listen to more, but if you want to know more, there's gonna be more hearings. There's gonna be more people talked to. You can finish the rest of this yourself. This is the Associated Press's live whistleblower coverage. I'm pointing to my screen, like actually gesturing towards the the things you can see on the screen, whenever I could just use my mouse and point here and here so you know where to go. But good luck, Sam. I'm sorry. I got nothing more. I can't do that. I can't do anymore. I mean, I probably could finish this out, but I'm done. I'm sorry. And if anybody's made it this long, I hope you found it entertaining. If everybody's okay with it, I'm gonna go back to Digimon World next stream, hopefully. I'm sorry to bring everyone down with the heavy stuff, but I mean, hopefully my voice can do something. Hopefully I can do something in this one fucking case. Anyway, don't forget to do all the pleasantries, all the likes, subscribes. Wisdom, you've done enough. Don't you give anyone else. No, you're. Thank you. You're generous. You're amazing. Don't ever change. Just, man, too generous. Ugh. I'm out.